Well, ladies and gentlemen, women's sport, and in this case today, we're going to be talking about women's football, a sport we've not really spoken about on this channel. And yes, it is football, not soccer, but it has been thrown into the pits of woke ideology by the very football player who was an advocate for equality in women's football. And I say was an advocate because there's no way you can still preach about equality when you're now talking about things that completely go against it. US women's star Megan Rapinoe has plenty of times in the past shown where she has stood on the whole equality thing within the world of football. She used to go around telling everybody she thinks men and women should be on the same wages, and I don't think this is controversial to say, but whenever she used to say that, people used to laugh because it doesn't make any sense, would have huge ramifications on women's football, and would probably send it into bankruptcy because the money just isn't there. And I don't really think she thought about the consequences. She just let her feelings get the better of her, as most liberals do, right? But it seems like her equality stance doesn't just stretch as far as the financial side of things, because now she is so inclusive. She is saying, well, I would welcome transgender people into women's football. You know, I've been saying to people around me, this will be the next sport we see this in. It's just a matter of time. Megan Rapinoe says the US has weaponized women's sports against trans people. They're trying to legislate away people's full humanity. Be it the issues of LGBTQ+ rights or equal pay, US women's national team star Megan Rapinoe has never been afraid of standing up for what she believes in. And now on the eve of her final Women's World Cup, Rapinoe has taken aim at recent policies that aim to ban transgender women from competing in women's sports. We as a country are trying to legislate away people's full humanity, she told Time magazine in an interview. It's particularly frustrating when women's sports is now being weaponized. Oh, now we care about fairness, now we care about women's sports. That's total BS. And show me all the trans people who are nefariously taking advantage of being trans in sports. It's just not happening, said Rapinoe, who over the weekend announced she would retire from professional football at the end of the 2023 National Women's Soccer League season. Look, let's just interject here. I don't know if you've heard of Leah Thomas, Megan. You know, they did terrible in the men's side of things, went into the women's side of things and completely dominated. Took prizes away from other women. Sounds like that's taking advantage, right? And that's why people like Riley Gaines are speaking out against this and doing wonderful things for women's sports, unlike what you're trying to do now. I don't know, that's just me. However, the issue of transgender athletes has become a divisive issue across the world, and Rapinoe says the discourse around the topic can have real-life implications. I don't want to mince my words about it, Rapinoe explained in her interview with The Time. Dave Chappelle making jokes about trans people directly leads to violence, whether it's verbal or otherwise, against trans people. At the time, Chappelle responded to criticism he received for his remarks, saying he would meet with members of the trans community but would not be bending to anybody's demands. Rapinoe advocates a more inclusive approach to sports, saying that she would absolutely welcome a transgender woman onto the US women's national team. You're taking a real woman's place. That's part of the argument that's still extremely transphobic, Rapinoe told The Time. I see trans women as real women. What you're saying automatically in the argument, you're sort of telling on yourself already, is you don't believe these people are women, therefore they're taking the other sport. I don't feel that way. Rapinoe added, the most amazing thing about sports is that you play and you're playing with other people and you're having fun and you're being physically active. We're putting this all through the lens of competition and winning, but we're talking about people's lives. That's where we have to start. So there we have it. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most famous female football players ever has now come out and said trans women going into women's sports isn't taking a place away from actual women, and according to her, trans women are real women. I think science and common sense would like to have a conversation about that one. But this is absolutely ludicrous. It's ridiculous. And once again, Megan Rapinoe has let her emotions get the better of her and not thought about how her words could negatively affect women's football. I mean, have you ever watched men's football, Megan? I know, footballers today have an image, the stereotype of being drama queens, but the physicality we see would severely injure a woman if they allowed biological men to compete. I mean, I don't know why we have to keep on saying the same thing, and it's like we're trying to convince people of this thing that isn't true, but men will always have the physical advantage over a woman. Physically, they will always be stronger. The physicality we see in men's football today, the tackles we see go flying in, that injures male footballers. It breaks their bones, tears ligaments, and in some cases, ends their careers. So what effect is that going to have on a female footballer if a biological male was allowed to compete? If we go down this road, right, and I don't think we ever will, but if we went down this road, and not only with football, but with other physical sports, women's lives will be at risk. A severe injury, serious injury, would be waiting to happen. And would that be the catalyst for these people, these woke activists, to think to themselves, yeah, you know what, maybe men shouldn't be competing in women's sports? You know what, I even think then they'd still be like, no, men must still compete in women's sports. That's how deluded these people are. But somebody who isn't deluded and has a load of common sense is tennis legend, women's tennis legend, Martina Navratilova, because she has come out and pushed back against Megan Rapinoe's thoughts of trans athletes being in women's football in one word, but it's short and very effective. Martina Navratilova sends scathing one-word response to Megan Rapinoe after woke US soccer star claimed she would welcome a transgender player on the US women's national team despite safety concerns. Tennis icon Martina Navratilova has hit back at Megan Rapinoe's claims that trans women should be able to participate in women's sports ahead of the soccer star's fourth and final World Cup appearance later this month. Tennis icon Martina Navratilova has hit back at Megan Rapinoe's claims that trans women should be able to participate in women's sports ahead of the soccer star's fourth and final World Cup appearance later this month. Earlier this month, Rapinoe, 38, revealed that she would have no problem playing with a trans soccer player on the US women's national team, while also confessing strangely that she always thought that ex-President Donald Trump was fond of her. As her comments went viral, Navratilova, who won 18 major single titles in her prime, chimed in with a one-word response that made her feelings clear, and she responds with one word on Twitter saying, yikes, ... And that's all you really have to say, you know, and it highlights the stupidity behind this movement. You know, if people feel so passionate about this, if Megan Rapinoe feels so passionate about transgender people competing in women's football, you know what? Here's a great idea. Just create a transgender category where people can compete against each other. Trans people can compete against each other. It would be fair, right? But because of that fairness, that's why the suggestion just gets overlooked. I would love to see how other women footballers feel about this, because I'm willing to bet a lot of them, maybe 90% of them, aren't in the same boat as Megan Rapinoe, because they understand the consequences of such a move taking place. But those are just my thoughts on this whole situation, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure many of you have your own thoughts on Megan Rapinoe and her comments about trans athletes being in women's football. I can't wait to see them. If you have enjoyed today, then please, for me, make sure to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. But until next time, it has been your boy JD. Have a great day, stay safe, and I'm out. Peace.